The Geneva Protocol. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Defense Council's circular chamber, her holographic presentation hovering behind her. 50 pairs of alien eyes studied her with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed disdain. The chamber's crystalline walls caught the light from distant stars, creating an almost mystical atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the tension in the room. Distinguished members of the council, Sarah began, her voice steady despite the pressure. I present the Geneva Protocol, humanity's comprehensive approach to modern space warfare. She gestured, and the hologram shifted to display a complex network of interconnected systems. The Araxian counselor, Marshal Kexthor, leaned forward, his scaled ridge flaring with barely contained agitation. Commander, we have reviewed your preliminary reports. Your species proposes to fundamentally alter thousands of years of established combat doctrine. This is unprecedented. Sarah nodded, having expected this response. With respect, Marshal, warfare itself is unprecedented. Every conflict brings new challenges, new technologies, new ethical considerations. The Geneva Protocol addresses these realities. The hologram behind her transformed, showing a swarm of smaller vessels, moving in seemingly chaotic patterns. Traditional doctrine calls for large, heavily armed capital ships engaging in linear combat formations. But this approach has led to devastating civilian casualties and collateral damage to inhabited systems. A low murmur rippled through the chamber as the Valexian representative, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, raised their consciousness marker, the Council's equivalent of a raised hand. Your solution involves fragmentation, unpredictability. This seems more like chaos than combat. Sarah tapped her neural interface, and the hologram shifted again. The Geneva Protocol combines 3 key innovations: adaptive swarm tactics, quantum-linked AI battle networks, and psychological warfare integration. Our ships can split into smaller autonomous units, each guided by both human pilots and our HFY AI system. This allows for unprecedented flexibility and minimal civilian casualties. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. The Meridian Counselor, whose crystalline form sparkled with agitation, cut through the noise. AI networks in combat decisions. This is forbidden under Article 7 of the Galactic Combat Code. The code was written before humanity joined the Council. Sarah countered, maintaining her composure. Our AI systems don't make independent decisions. They enhance human judgment, process battlefield data, and coordinate our swarm formations. They're tools, not commanders. Marshal Kexthor's ridge now pulsed with a deep crimson, a clear sign of anger in his species. Tools that make a mockery of honorable combat. Your swarms, your psychological warfare. You treat battle like a game of deception, rather than a test of strength and courage. Sarah's expression hardened slightly. Marshal, with respect, we treat warfare as what it truly is, a tragic necessity that should be resolved as quickly and cleanly as possible. Honor means little to the civilians caught in the crossfire of traditional doctrine. The hologram shifted one final time, displaying statistics from recent pirate suppression operations. In the past year alone, human task forces have neutralized 17 significant pirate threats without a single civilian casualty. Our success rate is 89% higher than traditional methods, with 92% lower collateral damage. The Valexians' energy form flickered, their species equivalent of a skeptical frown, and the psychological impact of facing such unconventional warfare, the terror it instills. That's precisely the point, Sarah replied. The Geneva Protocol isn't just about winning battles, it's about preventing them. When potential adversaries know they'll face an adaptive, unpredictable response, they're less likely to initiate conflict in the first place. The chamber fell silent as the Council's Grand Arbiter, a massive being of living crystal named Silith, rose from their central position. Their voice resonated through the chamber like crystal chimes. Commander Chen, while your results are impressive, You must understand our concern. For millennia, the Galactic Combat Code has maintained order in our conflicts. It has prevented total war, restricted the use of planet-killing weapons, and preserved a degree of civilization in our darker moments. Sarah nodded respectfully. Grand Arbiter, Earth's history is scared by total war. The Geneva Protocol exists because we remember those scars. We don't seek to destroy the code. We seek to evolve it. War itself has evolved. Shouldn't our approach evolve with it? A convenient argument, Marshal Kexthor interjected. From a species that has barely mastered interstellar travel. You would have us abandon traditions older than your civilization. Not abandon, Sarah corrected firmly. Adapt. The pirates we face today don't follow your code. The threats looming on the galaxy's edge care nothing for our traditions. We can cling to familiar doctrine and watch it fail, or we can adapt and survive. The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form hummed with thought. You speak of threats on the galaxy's edge. Explain. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then decided on full transparency. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity beyond the outer rim. Energy signatures unlike anything in Council records. Whatever's out there, it's not bound by our conventions of warfare. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. The Grand Arbiter raised a crystalline limb for silence. This is troubling news, yet it does not automatically justify abandoning our ways. No, Sarah agreed, but it justifies examining them, testing them, improving them. Humanity doesn't ask the Council to abandon its principles. We ask you to consider that there might be better ways to uphold them. The Grand Arbiter studied her for a long moment, their crystalline form refracting starlight in complex patterns. The Council will need time to deliberate on this matter. Commander Chen, you have given us much to consider, perhaps more than you intended. As Sarah left the chamber, her neural interface buzzed with a priority message from Earth Command. The monitoring stations had picked up more anomalous signatures, closer this time. She couldn't help but wonder if the Council would have time to deliberate after all. In her quarters aboard the Earth vessel Hyperion, Sarah reviewed the latest data. The unknown signatures were becoming more frequent, more organized. Whatever was out there was getting closer, and she had a feeling humanity's unconventional tactics might soon be the least of the Council's concerns. The Geneva Protocol wasn't just about winning battles. It was about surviving them. Soon enough, the galaxy might understand why. Proving grounds. The alert klaxons aboard the Hyperion shattered the ship's night cycle silence. Commander Sarah Chen was already moving before her eyes fully opened, muscle memory from countless drills carrying her toward the bridge. Her neural interface buzzed with incoming data. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace near the Centauri colony, energy signatures matching known Nexus pirate vessels. Status report, she barked, stepping onto the bridge. Her crew worked with practiced efficiency, holographic displays flooding the command center with tactical data. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, her tactical officer, responded without looking up from her station. 17 Nexus vessels, Commander. They're using a new formation we haven't seen before. Energy readings suggest blockwave tech. They've somehow gotten their hands on restricted Council weaponry. Sarah's jaw tightened. Blockwave technology was supposedly restricted to Council peacekeeping forces. Its presence in pirate hands confirmed her suspicions about corruption within the Council's ranks. But that was a problem for later. Colony status. Shields at maximum. But they're not equipped for this level of assault, Maya reported. Civilian evacuation protocols are already in progress, but she hesitated. The pirates are targeting their escape vectors. Sarah studied the tactical display. The Nexus fleet had arranged itself in a classic Araxian hammer formation. No surprise given the rumors about ex-marshal officers selling their services to pirate groups. Under traditional doctrine, this would be a hopeless situation. The Hyperion, despite its advanced systems, was severely outnumbered. Perfect, Sarah said, a slight smile playing at her lips. Time to show the Council why we wrote the Geneva Protocol. Initialize HFY. The ship's AI battle network hummed to life, its quantum processors interfacing with the crew's neural links. Sarah felt the familiar tingle as HFY's consciousness merged with their own, creating a seamless blend of human intuition and machine precision. All hands, prepare for molecular disassembly. Tactical, begin psychological warfare protocols. Let's give them something they've never seen before. The Hyperion's outer hull began to shift, countless microscopic machines rearranging its structure. What had been a single warship split into 7 smaller vessels, each independently crewed and linked through HFY's network. The pirate fleet's formation, designed to engage a single capital ship, suddenly found itself facing a completely different tactical scenario. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Maya announced. Deploying acoustic phantoms. The psychological warfare systems activated, flooding space with carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulses that played havoc with pirate sensors. Phantom ships appeared and disappeared on their screens, making it impossible to distinguish real threats from illusions. The carefully coordinated Araxian formation began to waver. "They're breaking formation," Maya reported, satisfaction evident in her voice. Confusion spreading through their ranks. Sarah nodded. "Execute pattern Delta 7. Let's show them why predictability gets you killed." The 7 vessels that had once been the Hyperion moved in seemingly random patterns, but through HFY's network, every motion was precisely calculated. They slipped through gaps in the pirate formation that shouldn't have existed, targeting propulsion systems and weapons with surgical precision. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, picking up Council transmissions. "They're demanding we stand down and await their response fleet." "Noted," Sarah replied calmly. "Time to arrival for Council forces. 4 hours minimum. The colony will be gone in 2. Maintain current protocol." The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. The Hyperion's fragments harried the pirate fleet from multiple angles, their unconventional tactics forcing the raiders to abandon their rigid formation. HFY's quantum processors analyzed and predicted enemy responses in microseconds, allowing Sarah's forces to be 3 moves ahead at all times. One by one, the pirate ships found their weapons and engines disabled by precisely targeted strikes. The few that attempted to maintain traditional combat patterns quickly discovered why the Geneva Protocol emphasized adaptability over brute force. "Enemy fleet is in disarray," Maya reported. 14 vessels disabled, 3 attempting to retreat. Sarah leaned forward. "Not today. Execute containment pattern Echo 9. No one escapes to warn others about our capabilities." The battle was over in minutes. 17 pirate vessels disabled without a single civilian casualty, their crews trapped in ships that could no longer fight or flee. As the Hyperion's fragments reintegrated into a single vessel, Sarah opened a channel to the colony. "Centauri Colony, this is Commander Chen. Threat has been neutralized. Continue civilian evacuation procedures until Council forces arrive to secure the area." "Thank you, Commander," the colony's governor responded, voice thick with relief. "The Council said it would be hours before help could arrive." "How did you?" "The Geneva Protocol works, Governor. That's all they need to know." Hours later, when the Council fleet finally arrived, they found the pirate fleet neatly packaged for arrest, the colony safe, and the Hyperion maintaining a calm patrol pattern. The Council commanders demanded a full report on the battle, but their sensor logs showed only confusion, phantom ships, impossible maneuvers, and tactics that defied traditional analysis. In her quarters that night, Sarah reviewed the battle data with HFY. The AI's consciousness brushed against her mind through the neural link. "They will not understand," HFY observed. "The Council's doctrine does not allow for understanding." "No," Sarah agreed, studying the reports of unusual energy signatures from beyond the outer rim. "They were stronger now, more frequent, but they'll need to learn. Something tells me we're running out of time to teach them." The quantum processors hummed in agreement. Beyond the Gnome Galaxy, something was moving in the darkness. The Geneva Protocol might have been born from humanity's desire to minimize casualties, but soon it might be all that stood between civilization and extinction. The War Games incident. The Grand Arbiter's decision had been final. Humanity would demonstrate their combat capabilities in the Galactic War Games, an event that hadn't been held in over 3 centuries. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Hyperion's observation deck, watching as thousands of ships from across the Council space assembled near the Arcturus testing grounds. "They're setting us up to fail," Lieutenant Rodriguez said, joining her at the viewport. "The scenarios they've chosen, they're designed to make the Geneva Protocol look ineffective." Sarah nodded, studying the massive holographic arena taking shape before them. The Council had selected 3 historical battles, all of which had been won using traditional doctrine. They expected humanity to attempt these battles using conventional methods. They didn't understand that the Geneva Protocol wasn't just about tactics, it was about changing how you thought about combat itself. "Status of the modifications?" Sarah asked. Maya checked her neural link. Athena's quantum processors are masked behind standard computing signatures. The molecular restructuring systems are running silent. As far as their scans show, we're just another standard Council-compliant vessel. Good. The first scenario begins in 3 hours. Have the crew run final simulations. I want everyone ready for what's coming. The first scenario was the Battle of Proxima Vale, where a numerically superior pirate fleet had been defeated by disciplined Council battle groups fighting in traditional formation. The Council commanders watched with poorly concealed smugness as the Hyperion took its starting position. "Commander Chen," Marshal Kexthor's voice carried across the command channel, "remember that all ships must maintain Council-approved combat configurations throughout the exercise." "Understood, Marshal," Sarah replied calmly. Beginning Scenario 1. The holographic pirates appeared, their fleet arranged exactly as historical records showed. The Council expected the Hyperion to form up with the other simulation vessels and engage in a direct confrontation. Instead, Sarah ordered a full retreat. "What is this?" Kexthor demanded. "Stand and fight." Sarah ignored him, watching as the simulated pirate fleet gave chase. The Hyperion led them through a series of seemingly erratic maneuvers, each one precisely calculated by Athena. The pursuit lasted for 17 minutes before Kexthor's patience broke. "This is not how the battle was won. You make a mockery of." "Scenario complete," the automated system announced. The holographic display showed the entire pirate fleet had been led into a carefully planned gravitational eddy, their ships hopelessly entangled with each other. In the original battle, over 300 Council vessels had been destroyed, achieving victory. The Hyperion had won without firing a shot. The second scenario was equally unconventional. Rather than engage in the famous last stand at Centauri Prime, Sarah had Athena hack the simulation itself, showing the Council that their supposedly secure combat systems could be compromised. The point wasn't to win the battle, it was to demonstrate why their traditional approach to warfare was dangerously outdated. But it was the third scenario that threw the war games into chaos. The fall of Arcturus Station was considered an impossible scenario, a training exercise designed to teach young officers about accepting inevitable defeat with honor. No one had ever won it in its 1,000-year history. The holographic enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace, 500 vessels against the Hyperion's one. The station's civilian population had to be evacuated, but the enemy's superior numbers made traditional defense impossible. It was designed to be a lesson in noble sacrifice. Sarah had other ideas. "Initialize full Geneva Protocol," she ordered. "Athena, remove all restrictions. Show them everything." The Hyperion didn't just split into smaller vessels this time. Each fragment underwent continuous molecular restructuring, changing shape and energy signatures to confuse enemy targeting systems. The quantum battle network reached out, infiltrating the simulation's parameters and turning them against the attackers. But the real surprise came when Sarah broadcast a simple message to the enemy fleet. "Your commander is dead. Your homeworld has fallen. This battle ended 3 days ago. The psychological warfare systems generated perfect holographic evidence supporting these claims. The enemy fleet's communication channels were flooded with false orders and conflicting information. In the chaos that followed, the Hyperion's fragments systematically disabled key enemy vessels, while civilian transports slipped through the gaps in their formation. The scenario ended with the station successfully evacuated, the enemy fleet in disarray, and not a single civilian casualty. The council chamber erupted in outrage. "This is not warfare," Kex Thor roared. "You changed the parameters, hacked our systems, used psychological manipulation." "We adapted," Sarah replied simply. "The Geneva Protocol isn't about following predetermined paths to victory. It's about finding new ones." The Grand Arbiter raised their crystalline form, silence falling over the chamber. "Commander Chen, you have demonstrated concerning capabilities. Your methods may be effective, but they represent a fundamental threat to how we conduct warfare." "War itself is the threat," Sarah countered. "We've shown you that your security systems can be compromised, that your doctrine has weaknesses. We didn't do this to embarrass you. We did it to prepare you." "Prepare us?" The Valexian representative's energy form pulsed. "For what?" Sarah nodded to Maya, who activated a holographic display. The mysterious energy signatures from beyond the outer rim were now clear enough to analyze. The patterns were unlike anything in council records, but HFY had decoded enough to understand one thing. They were battle coordinates. "Something is coming," Sarah said quietly. "Something that doesn't care about our traditions or our honor. When it arrives, we can either adapt together or die separately." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The war games had proven that humanity's methods worked, but they had also exposed how vulnerable the Council's systems were to unconventional warfare. If humanity could do this much damage in a simulation, what could an unknown enemy do in actual combat? The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form hummed with barely contained energy. "We will need time to process these revelations." "With respect," Sarah replied, her eyes on the sensor data. "I don't think time is something we have much of anymore." Diplomatic fallout. The Council's emergency session had stretched into its 4th day. Commander Sarah Chen watched from her assigned observation platform as species from across the galaxy argued about humanity's actions during the war games. The Hyperion's demonstration had done more than challenge their military doctrine. It had shaken their civilization to its core. "The vote is complete," the Grand Arbiter announced, their crystalline form radiating cold light. "By majority decision, the Council hereby demands that humanity immediately discontinue the Geneva Protocol. All AI battle networks must be dismantled. All molecular restructuring technology must be surrendered. All psychological warfare systems must be deactivated." Sarah stepped forward to the speaker's platform. "And if we refuse, then Earth will face total economic isolation," Marshal Kex Thor declared, his scaled ridge flaring triumphantly. "Your colonies will be quarantined. Your trade routes will be closed. Your species will be confined to your home system until you learn to wage war properly." The threat might have carried more weight if Sarah hadn't received an urgent update from HFY moments before. The AI's quantum processors had finally decoded more of the mysterious transmissions from beyond the rim. What they revealed changed everything. "Before you vote to isolate Earth," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "you should see this." She activated her neural link, projecting HFY's analysis onto the chamber's main display. The hologram showed a massive fleet emerging from unknown space. Ships of impossible configurations moved with organic fluidity, their energy signatures overwhelming HFY's sensors. But it was their trajectory that silenced the chamber. They were headed directly for Council space. "First contact in approximately 72 hours, Sarah announced into the stunned silence. "Their numbers are beyond anything we've encountered. Their technology exceeds our understanding, and based on their formation and energy outputs, their intentions are clearly hostile. Impossible, Kexthor whispered, but the data didn't lie. Our defense fleets will be annihilated if they face this threat with traditional tactics. Sarah interrupted. The Geneva Protocol isn't just about winning battles. It's about surviving them. And right now, it might be the only thing that gives us a chance. The Valexian representative's energy form flickered rapidly, their species' expression of extreme distress. You knew this was coming. The war games, the demonstrations. You were preparing us. We tried to, Sarah confirmed. Humanity's history is filled with examples of technologically superior forces being defeated by adaptive tactics and unconventional warfare. We developed the Geneva Protocol because we knew that somewhere out there, something like this was waiting. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as the council species argued about how to respond. The Grand Arbiter raised their crystalline limbs for silence. Even if what you say is true, Commander, we cannot simply abandon thousands of years of military tradition in 3 days. You don't have to, Sarah replied. The Hyperion carries enough quantum processors to network with your entire defense fleet. Aficionado can coordinate our forces in real time, allowing each species to fight in their own style, while still maintaining tactical coherence. We don't need you to change. We need you to adapt. A new alert flashed across Sarah's neural link. The unknown fleet had accelerated. Their arrival time had just been cut in half. 36 hours, she announced grimly. That's how long we have to prepare. You can vote to isolate Earth if you want. But first, ask yourselves this. If our methods could so thoroughly dismantle your defenses in a simulation, what will these aliens do in actual combat? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was the Meridian Counselor who spoke first, their crystalline form vibrating with determination. The Meridian fleet stands with Earth, they declared. We would rather adapt and survive than die clutching our traditions. One by one, other council species began to pledge their support. Even Marshal Kexthor, after a long moment of internal struggle, gave a rigid nod of acceptance. The Grand Arbiter's form pulsed with ancient power. It seems we have no choice. Commander Chen, you have 36 hours to prepare our combined fleets. Do not make us regret this decision. Sarah was already sending orders through her neural link as she left the chamber. The Hyperion's molecular restructuring systems would need to be adapted to work with allied vessels. Athena's quantum network had to be expanded to handle thousands of ships from dozens of species, and somehow they needed to develop battle plans that combined Council military doctrine with human innovation. Maya, she called over the command channel, begin full deployment of the Geneva Protocol. I want every ship in the combined fleet linked to ATHENA within 12 hours. Have the Psychological Warfare Division start analyzing the alien transmissions. I want to know everything about how they think. What about the Council's combat regulations? Lieutenant Rodriguez asked. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Consider them officially suspended. We're about to rewrite the rules of warfare, Lieutenant. Let's hope we're not too late to make it count. In her mind, Athena's presence hummed with calculated certainty. The coming battle would either mark the beginning of a new era in galactic warfare or the end of everything they knew. Either way, humanity's unconventional approach to combat was about to face its greatest test: evolution of war. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council hung in space like a glittering web of light. 10,000 ships from 24 species, all linked through Athena's quantum network. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Hyperion's bridge, watching as the final preparations were completed. They had managed to accomplish in 36 hours what should have taken months. Unknown fleet dropping out of FTL, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, her voice tight with tension. Numbers are spirits above. Athena's counting over 30,000 vessels. The alien ships emerged from hyperspace like a tide of living metal. Their organic-looking vessels moved with impossible grace, forming patterns that defied conventional spatial physics. Sarah felt Athena's presence in her mind, analyzing their every movement. updating battle plans in real time. All ships, execute Protocol Omega, Sarah commanded. The order rippled through the quantum network, and the combined fleet began to move. Traditional Council vessels formed the core of their formation, while human ships and their newly converted allies began molecular restructuring sequences. The alien fleet's first attack came without warning, a wave of energy that should have torn through their lines. Instead, the Council fleet split apart like mercury, letting the blast pass harmlessly through the gaps before reforming. The aliens paused, clearly surprised by the response. They expected us to hold formation, Maya observed, just like the Council would have done before. Sarah nodded. HFY, begin psychological warfare protocols. Let's see how they handle uncertainty. The quantum network came alive with activity. Phantom ships appeared and disappeared throughout the battlefield. Communication channels flooded with contradictory information. The alien fleet's perfect formations began to waver as their sensors struggled to distinguish reality from illusion. They're adapting, Sarah noted, watching as the enemy ships began to shift their tactics. HFY, analyze their response patterns. Find the weaknesses in their new formation. The battle that followed defied traditional military doctrine in every way. Council ships that had never deviated from standard combat protocols now moved in fluid, unpredictable patterns. The Hyperion led squadrons of vessels that continuously reformed and restructured, presenting an ever-changing face to the enemy. But the aliens were powerful, and they learned quickly. For every advantage the Geneva Protocol provided, the enemy developed countermeasures. Ships were lost on both sides as the battle escalated. We can't match them for raw power, Maya reported, as another Council battle group fell to the alien weapons. Even with our combined fleet, they're just too strong. We don't need to match them, Sarah replied, her mind merged with HFY's battle network. We just need to make them fight our way. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All vessels, execute Protocol Genesis. It was a maneuver they had barely had time to practice, the ultimate expression of the Geneva Protocol's philosophy. Every ship in the Council fleet began to break apart, not just into smaller vessels, but into clouds of semi-autonomous units. Athena's quantum network coordinated their movements, turning the ordered fleet into a storm of unpredictable threats. The alien fleet's formation collapsed as they tried to track thousands of targets simultaneously. Their superior technology meant nothing when they couldn't bring it to bear effectively. Their organic ships, designed to fight in coordination, found themselves isolated and surrounded. Their command structure is breaking down, Maya announced. Athena's psychological warfare is getting through. Their ships are starting to fight independently. Sarah watched as the tide of battle turned. The aliens' technological advantage became their weakness as the quantum network turned their own communications against them. Ships that could have destroyed entire Council fleets found themselves disabled by precisely coordinated strikes from dozens of smaller vessels. They're retreating, Maya reported, disbelief evident in her voice. First their outer squadrons, now their core fleet. They're actually running. The alien fleet began to pull back, their perfect formations shattered. Ships disappeared into hyperspace in groups, then waves, until finally their mighty armada had flowed, leaving behind only debris and disabled vessels as evidence of the battle. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began, Sarah received a priority communication from the Grand Arbiter. Commander Chen, the crystalline being's voice carried a note of humility she had never heard before. The Council owes humanity an apology and our gratitude. Your Geneva Protocol saved not just lives today, but our entire civilization. The protocol didn't save us, Sarah corrected gently. Adaptation did. The willingness to change, to evolve our approach to warfare. That's what made the difference. Indeed, the Arbiter agreed, which is why the Council has voted to officially adopt the Geneva Protocol as our new standard for military operations. The age of traditional warfare is over. The future belongs to those who can adapt. Sarah looked out at the battlefield, where Council ships were already beginning to incorporate the molecular restructuring technology into their designs. Athena's quantum network had expanded to include alien AIs, creating a hybrid system that combined the best of all their technologies. "The aliens will return," she said quietly, "and they'll be ready for what we did today." "Yes," the Arbiter agreed, "but we will be ready as well. Not because we are stronger or more advanced, but because we have learned to evolve. Humanity has taught us that true strength lies not in adherence to tradition, but in the courage to change." As the combined fleet began their journey home, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. The Geneva Protocol had started as humanity's controversial approach to warfare, but it had become something more, a philosophy of adaptation that had saved the galaxy. In her mind, Athena's presence hummed with satisfaction. The quantum network was already processing data from the battle, preparing for the next evolution of warfare. Because that was the true lesson of the Geneva Protocol. The only constant in war was change itself, and humanity would keep changing, keep adapting, keep evolving. Not just to survive, but to ensure that all species could face whatever challenges the galaxy held in store. After all, that's what humans did best.